Welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room. I am one of your two hosts tonight, Anthony Prohaska, joined by Mr. Eric Turner. And if you're a normal viewer of this show, don't smirk already. If you're a normal viewer of the show, you would be like, wait a minute, isn't there normally three hosts? And yeah, normally there is, but for the second time, and I think about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, Mr. Kendall Mursky has decided to betray Eric and myself and stab us in the back because, yeah, it's painful. I tried to remove the knife out of my back. I can't, so I had to adjust how I sit in this chair. Kendall's got like friends over or something. He's being pretty selfish. But nonetheless.
Yeah, his friends over. They're probably playing Madden, eating Doritos,
Yeah, until Kendall's parents tell him it's time to go to bed.
Time to go to
9
bed.
p.m. Up, your friends got to go. But Eric, you and I are going to trudge on tonight with a topic that, honestly, even in this episode of what we're going to do, talking about Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, we've got a lot of great clips and a lot of great things to talk about here in the film room. But nothing that we do is going to do these guys justice because of how good they are and how important they are. And they're two players that we've spoken about a lot in this show when we're breaking down film during the season and picking out different things. They're players that we've spoken about in passing on different episodes, but we've never holistically done an episode dedicated to them. And honestly, they could deserve like a month's worth of episodes because of how important they are to this team and how good they are at what they do.
Yeah, they're the perfect type of players to really dive into their film. And one, because they're fun to watch, but two, because they're so important to the defense.
Yes.
And three, because there's so much nuance and details to their play. And obviously they had tremendous seasons last year, and they're so crucial to the Bills defense. They're so crucial to what they do schematically. They're leaders on the field, off the field. I mean, you can't say enough good things about these two guys, honestly. And so, yes, it's great to just slow things down, get into the film room, and watch some, Poyer and Hyde film tonight in the film room.
Yeah, their play really since, and maybe it's a bit coincidental, but since they've come into the Buffalo Bills organization, this organization has been different. Now, granted, there's a lot of other variables that have come along with their addition to this team, but two guys who, Micah Hyde was talked about a little bit in free agency that year that he came to Buffalo, but it was more like, a kind of jack of all trades, and he can do some punt return stuff, and he's fun. And then the Bills signed him, and it was like, oh, what's he going to be? And it was like safety. Okay, we'll see what happens. And then Jordan Poyer was almost a complete afterthought. I remember when he was signed by the Bills, people were talking about like the Bills signed a depth safety from Cleveland. Like, what is he going to do? And both of them have just risen to all pro levels within this defense. And, like you mentioned in the episode description here, arguably the best safety tandem in the NFL with what they do. And I think a lot of what ties into how good they are is that interchangeable piece that they have. Everybody who, if you've watched football and you're used to seeing the depth charts coming up on TV, or if you've played Madden, you are used to seeing the FS and the SS designation. You got your free safety and you got your strong safety, and everybody knows usually what those guys do. But Eric, these are, granted, there's some other safeties in the league that do it, but Hyde and Poyer both truly blur the lines between free and strong safety. There is no free or strong when it comes to Poyer and Hyde. They are just safeties, and that's it. And that's so valuable in today's NFL.
Yeah, and the great thing about, Poyer especially, because, again, he was kind of that no-name, like, who's this guy? He's coming off injury, that no-name type player. But I remember watching his film in Cleveland, and yes, it was very brief, and there weren't many reps, but he would come down from his too high safety looks and just light people up like you're going to see, time and time again every week. And so, he was a type of player that, really thrived in the box early in his career in Buffalo. But then as the defense evolved and they started to build more things into the scheme, you saw him excel even more. And you saw that like ascension kind of come to fruition last year, right? And
sure.
that all pro postseason. But he's definitely developed a lot on the field, off the field. And yes, Hyde was kind of more of a known commodity, but you got to think about it, guys. Like, he played primarily corner when he was in Green Bay. He was like in the slot, a bunch.
Slot corner.
So, so former corners basically coming and playing safety. They were handpicked for this scheme. They communicate really well with each other. They're very vocal. They're almost on the same wavelength, and that they're balanced as players on the field and as leaders on the field. It really is. They've become the identity of that defense. They are Sean McDermott's coaches on the field.
Oh, 1000%. And real quick, I want to pull up this comment. Steven, and I was talking about Poyer like a couple weeks ago in an episode of Disguise Coverage, and Steven typed Poyer, but it got auto-corrected to PowerPoint. So we made it a rule that anytime he mentions Jordan Poyer, he has to refer to him as PowerPoint. So yeah, appreciate you being here, Steven.
And drink.
Yeah, and drink. A whole show about PowerPoint and Hyde. And Eric, you mentioned something I think is cool as well. You know, how the defense has evolved. But what's awesome is we've watched Hyde and Poyer evolve as that defense has evolved. And I think it's no coincidence that as this defense has evolved and gotten better, they're also getting better at evolving. And it's kind of like a chicken and egg scenario. And as well as the defense evolving and getting better, and so they're evolving and getting better, or are they kind of spearheading that betterment and that type of evolution? Because again, what they do, you don't, and I wish people, we try to get people to fully grasp it, how hard it is just to come from deep and make a tackle on a running back like a Leonard Fournette or Damian Williams or Jerick McKinnon or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that highlight from that Chiefs game, coming up and just making a tackle from depth, or sitting in those looks, pre-snap and then and being able to anticipate when the snap is going to come and then drop into a different look and still being able to execute. It's so much harder when, okay, here's your zone. Okay, well, if I, line up in my zone pre-snap, then okay, I'm already here. It's a completely different thing when you have to come downhill and adjust on the fly and adjust to the reads and adjust to your looks. And you're trying to play mind games with the quarterback who's trying to play mind games with you. And then you still have to execute and read what's going on in front of you and partner with your peers. There's so much responsibility on a safety in today's NFL. And as the NFL defensively is starting to evolve holistically, trying to combat NFL offenses, and okay, can we use more light boxes and be able to keep two high safeties, but still be able to fit the run, but still be able to play the pass, because that's what we're primarily, designed to do.
Yeah.
Hyde and Poyer are so important for that, because you don't have to worry about we can't have those safeties high because they can't fit the run from that deep, or they can't make a tackle in the alley, or even if we spill something to the outside, they can't finish like that. We got to stop it before it gets going.
No tells.
No, there's no tells. They clean up so much, and there's so much mentally they do and physically they do. And it's fun to finally have an episode that we're doing that gets to dive into the X's and O's of, I was going to say, the heartbeat of this Bills defense. And I don't want to sound dramatic with it for the sake of an intro to an episode, but I think that might be spot on, because they're the engine or the heart or the lifeblood or spine, whatever you want to go with. They make this defense go because of their versatility and interchangeability and how well they execute at those levels.
Yeah. And, because it's the name of your show, but their ability to disguise coverages is really, like you said, the heartbeat of this pass defense, right? This is a defense set up to defend the pass. This is a scheme, a coverage set that is meant to defend passing teams. And they are the heartbeat of that. They always force the quarterback to hold on to the ball deep into their drops. Pre-snap, it's Poyer, Hyde, and even Taron Johnson working together to disguise that coverage with their alignments, where they're aligned inside, outside in the slot, or outside as a safety in a too high look. Like the different widths and vertical depth that these safeties play with. They'll be up near the line of scrimmage and then all of a sudden bail as soon as the quarterback takes the ball from the center there, and his eyes are in the opposite direction. They don't even notice that one of the safeties are spinning deep there. So their ability to disguise coverage really is the heartbeat of the defense and really sets up quarterbacks for failure. And the other thing is, we didn't talk about it enough. This staff is always preaching turnovers and creating turnovers. And these guys were on fire when it came to turnovers last year. So listen to some of these stats, Anthony. Hyde had 6 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries. Poyer, 5 interceptions, 1 fumble force. So that's 13 turnovers out of 30 were courtesy of those 2 safeties. They just are always around the ball. And that's not just luck. That is football intelligence. That's processing. That's film study. These guys are well prepared. As I said, they are coaches on the field. They're, putting people in the proper alignments and positions, and, doing things the right way puts you in the spot to make plays like they did last year. And I'm just glad that both of them were able to do that.
There's something to be said. I love that point that you made because I feel like there's always like, oh, it seems like the ball always bounces right for this guy. But when the ball bounces a lot for in the right way for certain guys, it's because they're putting themselves in the position to
Yeah.
benefit off the way that ball bounces. And you're right, they're always flying around the football. And it's funny watching, you're seeing, especially now, defenses are, we were talking about it in the DMs offline, a month or so ago, talking about the difference between positionless football and guys who are interchangeable. Ooh, awesome point from Dilly Dale. Poyer and Hyde have mastered the cerebral part of football 1000%. They're next level when it comes to the mental game of playing football. And we see so many defensive schemes and coaches and GMs really going hard in that area of positionless football or interchangeable guys, especially in the secondary. And you see so many teams now are trying to draft these guys that can be a big nickel who can still cover but still not be, a problem for the math when it comes to fitting the run, or guys trying to draft safeties who can play free and strong and they're not as much of a tell. And the Bills have just been kind of ahead of that curve,
Yeah.
whether coincidentally or not, in how they built this defense. And they do so much for this team, and it's nice to see them get those all pro nods. And again, it's nice to dive into the film tonight for these guys and really start to break down what they can do, and really show everybody and showcase it on the next level. But before we do that, we're going to show some stats. Eric, you alluded to some. I'll be honest. So I knew how good Jordan Poyer was, and I knew
Yeah.
how good Micah Hyde was. The stats here in the advanced metrics, I was blown away legitimately for Poyer and how good he was last year in everything. So among safeties with a minimum of 20% of coverage snaps last year, which there were 98 safeties. Keep that in your mind for all of this. There were 98 safeties last year that had at least 20% of the coverage snaps. He had the third lowest reception percentage allowed when targeted, the lowest yards per reception, the lowest quarterback passer rating against, the second most interceptions. The only reason he was second most was because Micah Hyde was first. The 18th lowest missed tackle percentage. And again, that speaks even more to what he's doing because he's coming from depth a lot. So to know that he's coming from depth and
Yeah.
still making plays and not missing, it's not like he's just sitting around the line and he only has to take 2 steps and he makes a tackle. He's making them everywhere. This is a big one too. 47.5 coverage snaps per reception. So that means how many, times he's in coverage versus how many times he's given up a reception. And that was, the 8th most. And then also our friends over at SIS, they have some cool metrics. One of them
Yeah.
is points saved in coverage. He was first amongst all safeties in points saved in coverage. And then on that other side, for you guys watching the video there, you see those coverage specific metrics, which, again, really speak to what he's able to do. You see the success, for reception percentage in zone, the interceptions in zone, the pass rating against in zone, but then also, those man statistics. And it's not like he was just successful in one area and
Yeah.
deficient in another. It really speaks to what he can do holistically as a football player in a variety of ways, in a variety of situations.
Right. And like I said, early on in his career in Buffalo, anytime they wanted to match up with a tight end, it was typically Micah Hyde that would do that. He would be the one near the box and manning up versus opposing tight ends. Well, Poyer has come a long way even in that area and reading routes a lot more and not being so aggressive. That was kind of his thing, right? He's just a really downhill type player. He is so much more patient now. He trusts his eyes a lot more, especially when he's off a few yards from the tight end. And he didn't fall for those little juke moves across the middle. He just did a really good job last year all around in the box from, too high looks, in man coverage, in zone coverage, post safety, split looks. Like he just did everything, as you can see that reflected in a lot of these stats. And, Hyde was kind of the same way, but not to obviously to Poyer's level. Obviously the interceptions were really, really nice last year. Some of the forced fumbles were also kind of critical times too, when offenses were driving and he would come in there, guys were wrapping up the receiver. He'd come in there and knock the ball out. 3 interceptions in man coverage. That one kind of stands out to me, courtesy of SIS.
Especially for a safety.
Yeah, for a safety. Like I said, like these 2 safeties can do it all. Man, zone, they can do it all. They're interchangeable, and they're just, again, they're the heartbeat of this defense.
Absolutely. Real quick, I wanted to pull up a question from Troy. Troy said, "What is points saved in coverage?" Troy, it's basically so you have your expected points added per snap. And so points saved in coverage is basically like the ratio of like how many points you are taking away
Shaved
from
off.
the offense. Yeah, shaved off. So every positive play for an offense gives you an amount of expected points added, and every positive play for the defense is a takeaway of, expected points. So basically like points removed. So it's the amount of basically like how many points, expected points added, how much he's taken away in coverage. And you see there, Hyde was 10th in that, Poyer was first. And being able to see what they do in zone and see what they do in man and see what they're able to do against the run and see what they're able to do against the pass, it's something that, again, speaks to their game and speaks to who they are. And now let's jump into some video footage. And, before we dive into the film, we're going to dive into a pretty cool intro piece here from Mr. Bill Belichick and see what he has to say.
Yeah, this was, I think this was maybe 2 years ago. I'm not sure exactly, but I just remember.
It's so tough because he dresses the same every year, so you can't even like bookmark it by what he's wearing.
We're talking about how Hyde and Poyer give us zero tells. Well, I mean, Bill Belichick and what he wears on game day kind of does the same thing.
He's always disguising coverage, everything. There's no tendency, nothing, no matter what.
Right. So he's talking about Hyde and Poyer and how important they are to the defense, and kind of gives us like a little scouting report on the two players.
Well, Hyde and Poyer do a good job. They work very well together. It's hard to talk about one without talking about the other one. They do an excellent job disguising their coverages and the blitzes, because they do pressure a pretty fair amount. They are both very instinctive and make some plays based on anticipation, experience, recognition of offensive formations, or plays as they develop. They react to them pretty quickly. So both those guys do a real good job. But Hyde's, has also stepped in for him as a punt returner. He's got very good ball skills. His corner experience. So when they're in man-to-man coverage situations and he's asked to do that, he's pretty competitive as a coverage player, as well as his own player, both short and deep. Middle of the field or half of the field, because they play both split and post safety coverages. So he's a pretty versatile guy. Poyer, similar, a little more of a strong safety role, but again, they work very well together and they're somewhat interchangeable because the defense is balanced, and there's a lot of strong rotation, there's a lot of weak rotation, there's a lot of split safety coverage, there's a lot of strong safety pressure, weak safety pressure, or pressures from that side. So they're pretty interchangeable, and that makes them a well-balanced defense. It's hard to take advantage of one thing or the other, because they're both pretty good at both.
All right, so I want to talk about how many times he said interchangeable,
Yep.
well-balanced.
Yep.
I mean, that's really the topic of this show. We're showing their versatility, their interchangeability, if that's a word, and how well-balanced they are. And their balance, again, is the identity of this defense, and again, they can stop the run, they can defend the pass, they can rush the passer. So they can do so much. And as I said, the turnovers were big for them last year, and we're going to, kind of look at a bunch of those. But I just love listening to him. Like if a reporter can get something good out of him like that, like it doesn't happen often, but when he does give a scouting report or, shares his 2 cents, man, he gives some really good stuff. I like that scouting report on the two players. And I think who's the Jets head coach? He did it too on
Robert Saleh.
Hyde. Saleh did it on Edmonds and Milano and Poyer and Hyde as well. I didn't get to cut that out, but I just love how often he said, how balanced these two players are.
Yeah, and he said it with so much charisma. You can see how excited he was to say all of it. He was just so effusive. No, it's always cool to see. It's, again, like, because he is so reserved, very rarely is he, kind of open with how he feels about stuff. That's why I always love to see Belichick talk about Ed Reed, because he's so open and, praising him and how great he is. And it's very rare when he praises anybody on his own team or an opponent's team that openly to the media. And so anytime he does, it's not just, a token thing and like he's doing it for everyone. It carries weight and it means something.
Yeah, so here we're going to start off with this play from the Chiefs game. Again, talking about how balanced they are as players, but also how they kind of accentuate the scheme in that regard as well. So you're going to see 3 receivers to the bottom of the screen. You're going to see Edmonds, Poyer as it's too high safety right here. off to the right. And just watch how they're working 4 defenders to the bottom over 3, all right? But then watch Hyde at the top. So you'll see him. He's working 2-on-1. So you have Trey as man coverage right here.
Mhm.
These 2 guys are working a 2-on-1, a 2-on-1 on that wide receiver. And so if that receiver runs an out route, Hyde's going to take him. That's what he does. So he eliminates that. So you see the balance on that side. You see it Hyde slowing down that side of the field. And now to the bottom, Poyer is running, again, a 4 over 3 to the bottom of the screen. And that's where Mahomes wants to go with the ball. And Poyer is able to close and make a big hit on him. Watch again. I'll let it roll in slow motion here. As that in-breaking route, that second in-breaking route breaks, Edmonds takes a shorter route. Here comes Poyer from his depth, and he's able to break up the pass on Hardman there.
I'm laughing because I posted this clip like 2 weeks ago, and some Chiefs fan came in and was like, pass interference, garbage play. And I was like, okay. It's just I love, both sides. And this play is good too, before getting into like Poyer and Hyde for me, like this play is good for what the Bills defense is overall. Like it's not overly complex in nature, but the fact that everyone is so often able to execute in the way they're supposed to, like you see Tremaine Edmonds turn and immediately pick up Pringle underneath. And then you see Taron playing with his leverage and he lets Hardman go inside. You see Poyer pick it up right away and drive on the ball. Like everybody is doing what they're supposed to. And more importantly, everybody is executing how they all expect each other to execute. No one's like, oh, well, dude, I thought you were going to be over there. Like, no, everybody is executing where they think they're each other are supposed to be. And you see Poyer drive on that ball and make that play and break it up on Hardman. This is really such a great leadoff for these two guys because it just shows what you're able to do. Like on one side, you got a safety helping and playing bracket coverage. And on the other side, you're playing, you're matching patterns in playing 4 over 3 and Poyer's coming from top. You have so many options. Like Hyde is able to come down into the slot and function in a way while Poyer is able to stay back and function in a way. And honestly, if you wanted to flip their roles on this, you could, because you see it all the time. Like there's no tell where they're sitting here and they're like, well, okay, Hyde can't do what Poyer is going to do on this play. So if we get this look and we want to show 4 over 3, we got to flip them. We got to make sure, Poyer's here or Hyde is here. Like you can do whatever you want. You can play those games and there's no giveaway. Like if you're looking at this pre-snap before Mahomes snaps the ball and you're trying to figure out what the coverage is going to be, it could literally be a multitude of things. And then you got the linebackers up near the line of scrimmage. You're thinking Klein might come on a blitz and instead he's dropping out and you're playing bracket coverage and 2-on-1 inside out on the slot.
I'm glad you mentioned him too, Anthony, because, Klein was in on this game and you talked about how the safeties are kind of erasers. Well, guess what? You have a guy that's not good in coverage. You're not going to put him one-on-one with a slot defender, a slot wide receiver or tight end. No, you're going to have bracket coverage. I mean, that right there, again, it helps to have safeties like this that can cover up deficiencies in players such as AJ Klein in coverage.
They're equalizers for so many things on the defense, whether it's in the pass, whether it's in the run, whether it's man, whether it's zone, just the variety of things that you can do and know that, okay, we can show this look. And, Klein, we want you to show blitz at the line and you're going to have to scream back and get on the inside, but it's going to be okay because you got Micah Hyde, as your outside guy playing that 2-on-1. And again, that allows you to maintain and have that look because if you didn't have faith in Hyde, you can't bring Klein up like that. You have to keep him back because you're not comfortable in his support behind him.
Yeah, and this is the interception by Jordan Poyer as a post safety. So when we say post safety, that means middle of the field is closed. That means that's a single high look. Poyer's that single high player. And I think Tannehill, this was a really bad throw, but I honestly think Tannehill thought that Poyer was going to break down on the middle and actually execute a cut right here, a slice, thinking that this guy's coming across. And you can see Tre'Davious White almost look like he's going to replace him deep. So I think Tannehill was guessing here. This is what he assumed Poyer was going to do, but Poyer never left the post. Never even gave the sign that he was going to leave the post. He stayed back, and as this receiver comes across the middle right here, he's able to just pick it off from his post safety position. And that's the thing. So Hyde and Poyer aren't the greatest athletes, and so when they are playing in that post safety look, everyone thinks post safety, cover three type looks. You got the, Earl Thomases of the world with speed. They got to be able to get from sideline to sideline from a single high look. Those guys aren't that type of athlete. So they win from the shoulders up, being able to process and read the quarterback, read the route combination from that single high look, and make plays on the ball like you see here.
What I also love too, when you're not the fastest or you're the most athletic, you can't afford to have any wasted motion, and you have to be on point from a technical aspect. That was one of the things I loved. Everybody, I'm sure it's burning in everyone's brain. Micah Hyde's interception of Mac Jones in the playoff game on that first drive for New England. It's not so much the speed of him, breaking and, driving deep and picking off Mac Jones. It's the angle he takes. There's no wasted motion. And you see that here with Poyer. There's no false movement, kind of like a center fielder judging, a rocket off the bat, like your angle to the ball and your footwork. There's no wasted motion. You can see him looking like a quarterback back there, processing everything that's in front of him. He sees the routes developing. He sees Tannehill through the routes that are developing, and look at his feet. There's no more drifting. He slow plays it a little bit, kind of horizontally, and waits for that ball to come, and then he pounces on it, and he takes a proper angle to the football. There is no wasted motion. You don't have to be a 4.3 40 guy to always get to the ball and be around the ball. And like you said, play, post safety. You don't have to do that. It's about how fast can you play from a mental standpoint. It doesn't matter how fast or how athletic you are. If you can't process and you're playing slow mentally, you are going to play slow physically. Poyer plays fast mentally, as does Hyde. And on this one, you also see that technical aspect from Poyer, right to it, straight line, A to B, no wasted movement, no rounding around, no false footwork. He reads it, he jumps it, he attacks it, technical, precise, and that's a huge part of why they're able to win and make these plays over and over.
Right, so we see the interception by Poyer on that play from his post-safety position, and a play you just referenced. 1st and 10 situation, Bills up 7-0. Now we have Hyde at post-safety, and you see where the ball's spotted. It's on the right hash. You see Hyde as that single high, like they're not hiding it. And honestly, it's man coverage across the board, right, Anthony? You can see it's corners over. You got twin set over here. Both the starting corners are over that way. And then you have a split backfield. And you can see the linebackers are pretty much matched up with their guys in the backfield. And so they're not hiding the fact that it's probably man coverage. But they're hoping that Hyde can at least stay on the hash. And, he doesn't have the speed to make a play deep. So you got the double move right here on Levi Wallace. Wallace gets cooked.
Yeah, he gets beat bad.
He gets cooked here. But because the pump fake was basically to no one, it didn't really hold Hyde at all. Right here, as that pump fake happens, watch how Hyde this is where he starts the process. Like, okay, he's going deep. Now I'm going to get on my horse. So he gets on his horse. And again, he doesn't have to come from far, but he has to maintain and get speed to stay over the top and not let that wide receiver get behind him. But more importantly, we're going to see it from the end zone angle. The ball tracking was out of this world. I didn't put the end zone angle, but the ball tracking, because as he's going deep, and I said Wallace was beaten, you see Aguilar look up for the ball, and here comes Hyde looking up as well. He peeks up as that ball's coming up over their shoulders, and then somehow just steals it. And honestly, when we're watching the broadcast, Anthony, of this,
that was a touchdown.
I honestly didn't know what the hell happened. It was so fast, and all I saw was Levi Wallace jump up with his hands up right there. I'm like, did he just pick that? It was literally, in my opinion, the number one play of defensively of the season.
It was unreal. And then when he picks it off, he pins it to his face mask as he goes down. It's wild. When Mac Jones does the pump fake, I feel like he's pumping Levi to get him to bite on the double move, maybe. And I don't know if he doesn't think Hyde is watching him or doesn't think Hyde can make that play.
Which would be dumb if you're pump faking versus man coverage, because that guy's eyes are going to be on that wide receiver.
I had so many Patriot fans that came in and they were like, the pump wasn't nothing. He was pumping Levi. And it was like, dude, but there's no reason for the pump there. Yeah. You still got to hold the safety. Like, there's no reason the safety should be getting over the top like that so easily. Hyde reads this textbook, similar to what Poyer did on the previous play. And I alluded to it on the last play, so that way you could tee it up on this one. It's his angle to the football, like a center fielder tracking, a rocket to the warning track. You have to, I feel like people also again, maybe they do, maybe they don't. he's not like looking down at his feet. He's not looking at Aguilar. Like, he has to track the ball in the air and then maintain that angle. He has to feel whether or not he's drifting, whether he's getting too shallow, whether he's getting too far over the top. If his angle to this football isn't perfect, he's either underneath Aguilar and too far, close to his feet, or he's too over the top and he gives Aguilar a chance to either make a play to break it up or come down with the ball. The angle here is absolutely perfect. He drops back and you see him read Mac Jones, and then instantaneously he's reading the trajectory of the football out of Mac Jones's hand. Again, I'm going to keep using this analogy, just like a center fielder reading the ball off the bat of a hitter. That is so impressive when you've got, again, let's talk to that interchangeability piece, back-to-back plays. You've got these guys who can do the same thing, like in a variety of ways. And in this instance, they're both playing that single high post, like unreal.
This money.
This one's hot. This one's good too.
And this is what's funny. So this was earlier in the year, I believe. Yeah, this was earlier in the year.
Like week 9, week 10.
Yeah. And Poyer is the post safety here. And watch what the Jets try doing. They try basically running the same type of play. It's basically the same play, but it's not a good throw because he's under pressure. He's throwing under duress and he kind of lobs it up. But this is Poyer picking off almost the same exact play against the Jets earlier in the year. So I don't know why they believed, the Patriots believed that they could get either of these safeties on this type of play. But again, they can play split field looks. They can play single high post safety looks. They have enough range. They process good enough to get to the sidelines and make interceptions like that.
And something that we've talked about this offseason is the idea of defenses trying to dictate to offenses and being able to try and take back some semblance of control. Poyer and Hyde allow you to do that because you're not hamstrung or forced to play them in certain areas because they have such glaring deficiencies. It's not, the Legion of Boom secondary and that cover 3 system in Seattle was tremendous. Nobody was ever seeing Cam Chancellor as the post safety, because he didn't have the skill set for it. And granted, they didn't have to because they had Earl Thomas and they had Richard Sherman and they had Bobby Wagner and they had this one gapping defensive line that caused havoc and get into the backfield. All these perfect pieces, but you knew that if you saw Cam Chancellor, he was going to do this one thing, but he did it great, and so did everybody else, and it worked out. When you see Poyer and Hyde, you don't know what they're going to do. If they're sitting there in a split safety look, are they going to stay in a split safety look? Is it man coverage? Is it zone? Is it going to be a man match? Is it going to be a zone match? Where are they dropping to? Is one of them going to come late and blitz? Is like, what's going on? All of that has got to go through the quarterback's head because they can do everything. And it's so funny to see them make the same play on back-to-back plays here in the film room because it just, again, really highlights they can do what each other can do. And like Bill Belichick said, them both kind of being tied to one another and the success of one, not coming without the success of the other. It's no coincidence.
Yeah. And so, you're talking about what they can do as, 2 or 1 high look safety. So let's talk about when they, can drop down and play in that intermediate level at the second level with the linebackers and corners there. So you're going to see some plays here where they're the buzz player, the sky player, or just a rat defender over the middle, or a robber over the middle. I was
going to say, Eric, explain to, just in case people don't know, tell them what buzz, sky, and rat is.
We're going to show you right here. So you see Hyde is circled right there, and then on the snap, he's going to drop down and become the buzz defender. So he's a hook to curl defender right here in that hook to curl area. This is more of like that cover 3 type look. You got 3
the Cam
deep,
Chancellor role.
Yes, 3 deep, 4 under. So he's playing that hook to curl area and just playing zone with zone eyes. And you see him drop down in the middle there. And now this play is actually completed because you're going to see Klein in this, again, cover 3 look. He's a hook to curl defender on the other side. He's going to jump this little route right here, and it's going to open up a route behind him. And so they're going to hit this dig route behind him. But watch as my mouse malfunctions. Watch as Hyde finds the ball. He's on the logo right there on the crest. And then he comes in there. And again, this was when the Jets were driving. This is a big 3rd down conversion. And then he rips the ball out. So you see him come down there and become that buzz defender. But more importantly, create the turnover at that, again, in their own territory. The Jets just passed midfield there and just makes a huge play by stripping it and then recovering the fumble.
Ball skills, we see it with the interceptions, and you can also see it with plays actually on the ball when the opponent has it and hear him forcing the fumble. That's such a heady play and a smart play to realize, like, okay, I'm in position to make the tackle. This guy's surrounded. Let me take, a calculated risk and try and see what I can do here. He knows he's got support, and you can see him eye it right away, gets his hands on Corey Davis, and he can just feel, and he starts wrenching, and he rips that ball right out. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. Like, you don't see a lot of times guys just chuck somebody to the ground and then wrench that ball out at the same time, especially from someone who used to be, a slot nickel corner and a punt returner. And now he's transitioned to more of this physical presence overall. And again, tying it all together for everyone, that multiplicity piece, the first several plays that we highlighted here, you had those single high looks. Now you have a 2 high look, but you still rotate into a single high look. But this time, again, you're showing a 2 high look pre-snap, which makes the quarterback think one thing. So, you show him your left hand, and then you smack him in the face with your right. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the quarterback actually did his job too.
Yeah,
he completed it to the receiver, but you have an eraser. You have a guy like Hyde. You have a guy like Poyer that attack the ball when you do complete it on the defensive scheme. That's just the type of things that they did last year and just created swings and got the ball back for their offense. So here's a 4th and 4 situation. I just love this play against the Chiefs because of obviously the down and distance, the situational football. Second quarter, 2 minutes left in the half. Bills are up 17-10, and you're going to see Poyer with a weak side rotation. You heard Belichick mention that weak side, strong side rotation. So he's going to drop down here from the weak side, from that 2 high look, post snap, drop down and become that robber over the middle of the field. And you see Hyde get deep there, and it's pretty good coverage. There's really no one open. Mahomes is holding it forever, and he is able to extend the play and try to hit a wide receiver deep over the middle. Travis Kelce coming open right here over the middle. But watch Poyer. Watch him read Mahomes and
starts gaining depth.
Yes. And then get his hand on the ball. Again, a big 4th down stop in this game.
And my favorite part about this is Poyer makes a tremendous play. He's pissed because he didn't get the interception or the ball didn't get picked off by someone else. Like, you see him see where the ball goes, and then he and slams his head and fist into the turf because he's pissed. Look at this end zone angle is beautiful. What's he starting to do? He sees Kelce start to cross his face. Yep. He sees Mahomes. Look at Mahomes is in that prone position. He looks loaded, like he's ready to throw the ball. Poyer, what does he do? He shoots his gun. He starts coming forward, takes that away. Mahomes has to scramble, try and find something else. And there's Poyer coming back in your screen again, coming back into the middle of the field, because this is, I think a lot of people just think it's like, oh, well, he's just reading the quarterback or he's just moving around. There's so much to this. Like, not only is he reading the quarterback and moving around, but he knows where the vulnerabilities are in the defense. And then he's also processing what's going on around him from the Chiefs' weapons. So he can come and take away Kelce, 2 seconds before when he sees him flash in front of him. And then he can also gain depth upfield to come and make a play when Kelce's coming back across the other way. He understands where is there a vulnerability in the defense. Okay, where does the offense have leverage? Okay, this spot, this play. Here's what I can do to combat that. Here's what I can do to fight that. And he makes a huge play. That was huge. 4th and 4, that was a big tone setter for that game because the Chiefs had moved the ball a little those first couple drives. And then you get a 4th and 4, a big chunk play potentially. Doesn't happen because of Jordan Poyer. He makes Mahomes have to work on this play, as does the whole defense. Like you said, the coverage was really spot on. But again, you got another 2 high look pre-snap, drop into a single high look. This time, he's that rat defender. He's coming in the middle of the field and playing that spot there, as opposed to the last play when Hyde came down and buzzed and functioned in more of a traditional cover 3 look.
Yeah, and so, I kind of glanced over weak side versus strong side. Okay, so this is a passing down. So the passing strength of this formation is right here. I think this is Tyreek Hill in the slot here. So the obviously the nickel, Taron Johnson's on him. So this is a weak side rotation. Weak side is to the top of the screen, and you're going to see Poyer drop down as the robber to the weak side. So that's what Belichick was talking about, weak side, strong side rotations. On this play, same game, right? It's the same game. It's in the third quarter. The Bills are now up 24-13. 3rd and 5 situation. Again, money down, money situation.
And short yardage.
Yep, and it's a strong side rotation here. So you see the 2 to a high look. I have Hyde highlighted right there. Now the strength of the formation, the passing strength was to the top of the screen. Now you see that strong side formation. You see Hyde come down in that robber roll. He sees 2 crossing routes coming to across the field there. Kelsey is the higher one with Neal on him, and then Trey White's out leveraged because of the motion by Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that rotation coming down from Hyde. What happens on this play? Hill kind of takes his eye off the ball for a split second because he saw Hyde coming down, and then that leads to a drop pass there, interception, and 6 points for the Bills.
What I love about this play too is that Hyde is in such great position that, granted, you can never count Tyreek Hill out, but even if Hill catches this pass, Hyde is right there in great shape and great position to make a tackle. And this is what's so frustrating if you're an opposing offense. Like, this is a well-designed play designed to scheme one of your stronger players, if not your strongest offensive player, aside from Patrick Mahomes, to scheme him open against a very good corner, Tre'Davious White. Trey, like you said, he gets out leveraged because of the route and because of the alignment of the Chiefs offense. You've got that space there. Like, Hill's going to get this and he can get across to the first down. What I also love, you see the routes developing there.
Yeah.
Hyde plays this top down. Like, he comes up and he first eyeballs Kelsey and then takes that away and then sees Mahomes' eyes go lower to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
And then he comes up and makes the play. He doesn't come screaming up in that rat roll, right? He doesn't come and just vacate and give Travis Kelsey that opening underneath. He comes up and he kind of settles around the 31, 32, slow plays it almost, continues to read, continues to process, and then again, takes a proper angle. He takes that angle because he sees Trey trailing behind Tyreek Hill. So he takes an angle to make a play on the ball, and he gets lucky and gets a tip and an interception and a touchdown.
Yeah.
But
And
even if
you know what I love about Tyreek Hill, man. Like, he saw Hyde. Look at how much like ground he gave up to go catch his ball. He loses a yard because he knows that Hyde is going to be coming and that he's trying to get to the sticks and stop him.
He sees him right, yep.
Yeah, so he loses a yard here, thinking that's going to get a little more separation so he can make a move post catch, but that screws up, the catch itself, and it goes right through his hands to Hyde. He saw Hyde from the jump, and it affected his route and it affected the catch. And
it erased, what verbiage is, we keep using, equalizing or erasing. It erases a well-designed play. And at worst for Kansas City, this should have just been an incompletion. You're like, oh, missed opportunity. Instead, it turns to a pick six. Oh, if you rewind it back, look at a little before that, you see right when Hyde comes down, boom, you see him come down from here and he looks left subtly towards Kelsey, and he's reading Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, and he sees both routes developing. So he comes up, sees Kelsey, settles a little bit, and then looks where Mahomes is, and Mahomes' eyes leave Kelsey and go to Hill, and he breaks, and he takes that proper angle again in order to box in Tyreek Hill and give him no space to operate. It's just such a heady play. It's so smart. It's so good from a processing standpoint. Granted, the athleticism and the footwork and speed and agility, quickness and all that stuff, but it's such a heady play. He takes away.
Click. You get to see him come down nice and slow as a robber, then boom, he's off. And it's such a good play.
He takes away 2 routes.
Yeah, and again, you watch this on the broadcast, you're probably like, that was a gimme. Like, no, there was so much more detail and nuance to this. Recognition of the routes, the 2 routes coming obviously from 2 of the better players in the NFL. Like, for him to be calm, and then boom, he recognizes what's coming, and he's got to make the stop if Hill catches that. But because he came down and was so visual and was so seen from Hill there that. Yes. He just drops it. And again, this was such a big play, man. Like, after this play, like, it took a lot of the wind out of their sails.
Yeah, it made it 31-10. And this is in the second half when we had that freak weather delay that delayed this game like an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes. And then it's kind of like, okay, let's, everybody come back and see what we can do. And instead, this just energizes the Bills and it kills any potential momentum for the Chiefs or their fans.
Yeah. And so here's a play with Poyer coming down, becoming the sky defender, which is just a flats defender. So you heard me talk about Buzz defender, is that hook the curl defender. Now you're going to see a cover 3 look, but you're going to see Poyer right here, and he's just a flats defender here. And we've broken this play down several times. The quarterback is looking to his right, so to the top of the screen. Tremaine Edmonds takes away that route, forces that quarterback to look in the other direction. And that's when Poyer, again, I just love his spacing on this play, though. Again, this is I think there's a second and long play. Look at his spacing. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to play. There's no one showing in the flat. So I'm going to, fall off just a little bit. And then once the quarterback comes back across the field late, Milano drops because he thinks the quarterback, Heineke, may take off. Here comes that defender in the flats. And that's when Poyer pounces for the interception. Just really good spacing. And really the word for Poyer last year was discipline, man. Like he was so disciplined here. He played the sticks. He played really good spacing, waited for those eyes of the quarterback to come back to his side, and then he just baited him for the interception.
Like we showed in one of the statistical graphics earlier, he had those 4 interceptions in zone coverage, which was the second most amongst all safeties last year. And this type of play shows you why, not a lot of teams nowadays, they don't necessarily, or they moved away from more of, spot drop coverage, and they've gone more with like pattern matching in a variety of ways. And you can still use spot drop and just regular zone in general. And the key to it is just being able to space and properly leverage, like you said, like the ability for him on this play to have the responsibility of the flats, but still maintain that leverage and spacing that he can affect this deeper route. And he makes it difficult for the quarterback. He makes Heineke have to decide what he's going to do. And Poyer's, playing, the worst case scenario, he's playing deeper. But he's able to, again, much like Hyde on that previous play, he's got that quick trigger. He's able to click and close and make a play on the ball in the blink of an eye. He's reading everything that's happening in front of him. You see the consistent movement in his feet and his hips. He's ready to make a play on any angle. And he's honestly, like you said, because of his spacing, he's set up to make a play on the deep man or on the short man, which he does and comes up and gets this pick, but he sets himself up in proper position to make a play no matter what happens. He sets himself up to make a play and be right no matter what Taylor Heineke decides to do.
Yeah, just really good team defense. In zone coverage, you need everyone on the same page. You need to take away options from the quarterback. Tremaine Edmonds does that. That forces Heineke to go back to his left, all the way back across the field with, under duress late in the play here. And he just wants to get rid of the ball because of the pressure in his face and doesn't realize that Poyer, could get there and make a play on this. And he does. Strong hands. Again, former, baseball player, former corner, obviously a guy that has some ball skills, created a lot of turnovers in college as well. Just a really nice play from him in that Washington football game. Here's another one. Disguising the coverage, man. We're gonna finish this one with a bang. So if you look at this, honestly, it looks and sets up as if it's man coverage. I mean, look at the early stems of the corners, and then of course Poyer, Taron Johnson. I mean, there's 3 receivers to the top of the screen. You see them kind of lined up. Yes, they're in off coverage, but there's a possibility that this could be man coverage. But post snap, you're gonna see Poyer and Hyde drop out. Just beautiful. I mean, I asked Poyer about this play. He goes, that's all I needed was that half second when he was going to take the snap and he took the eyes off of me. Didn't realize that we both went to a split safety look. And I mean, just watch both of the safeties here. Watch both of these guys because Hyde gets the interception here. But they were both making a break on the ball here. And Hyde is able to get it. Just great work by both of these safeties. Again, interchangeable. I mean, they're on the same wavelength. They both could have easily picked this off, but Hyde gets it here. Again, one of his, 6 interceptions this year. Just having those guys back there, you see that free release up the middle. I mean, they're just taking everything away from the offense. I mean, especially when your quarterback's under duress and kind of scrambling. You do not want to throw late over the middle against a split safety look when you have Hyde and Poyer back there.
No, and it's made worse by what you mentioned to start this clip is that Heineke's probably reading this and seeing this. He's like, okay, man coverage, single high safety look. And then not only is it not man coverage, it's also not a single high safety look. It's a 2 high look and it's zone. And because it's 3rd and long, everybody's gaining their depth. They're playing top down, keeping everything in front of them. And this is also a nice little play for, when a pressure can lead to something negative for an offense, even though the pressure didn't result in a sack. Good job by Jerry Hughes there, getting in and making a play. And then you've got, Edmonds underneath being a long pterodactyl. And so Heineke has to try and, put this either outside him or above him and figure out how to get it around him. And he throws it too far outside. And Micah Hyde is able to break on this ball. And like you said, Poyer also breaks on this ball. They just cancel so much of what you're trying to do as an offense. And again, a lot of it is tied to what they do pre-snap. So much of what the quarterback does, granted, there's a lot of post-snap diagnosis, but quarterbacks use those safeties to ID the coverage pre-snap and then figure everything out from there. That's like their starting point. That's their base of reference. And so if you've got safeties who are constantly changing the math and playing different games and spinning high to low and spinning from split looks to single high looks, or especially like you mentioned that Poyer told you, like if you look up and you're like, okay, this guy is inside the 20, got it. And then you look to the center and snap the ball. And the next time you look up, he's at the 25 and he's gaining depth. Everything that you thought pre-snap has been thrown out the window and you have to adjust on the fly.
And the other part of this is, they did spin to a too high look, but okay, now you're the quarterback. You got the ball in your hand. You're trying to process. Okay, maybe he saw that they spun. He saw Poyer go to that, split high look. Okay, now what coverage is it? There are several different variations of, too high coverages.
So much.
Cover 2, Tampa 2, quarters coverage, and then you can all other little nuances in between. Well, okay, when he's dropping, he sees Tremaine Edmonds in that deep middle. He's like, oh, maybe this is basically a Tampa 2. I know where I need to go with the ball. Middle field's open. I'm going to go on that bender route. He doesn't realize that this is actually quarters coverage. And you can tell it's quarters coverage because Milano's going to widen here with that running back as he kind of goes out to the flats. They make it look like it's man coverage because they have a 3-by-1 over here. And so Tre'Davious White is one-on-one, and it looks like it's man coverage. It's actually quarters coverage, guys. This is not cover 2. This isn't Tampa 2. This is quarters coverage. And when they have quarters coverage with 3-by-1 sets, that bender route usually is a kick or push call from this safety, Hyde. As this bender comes over here, that safety is supposed to key an alert on that, and that's exactly what he does. But he doesn't just jump it. He baits him. He waits on it, and he's able to pick him off. So, yes, maybe Heineke saw the rotation to a too high look, but it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. He then has to process everyone's leverage and alignment and how they're covering from there on out to decipher what type of too high look it is, and he doesn't. And again, under duress, on the run, and that leads to the interception from Micah Hyde there. Just so much to process as a quarterback, and especially a quarterback who doesn't have a lot of reps. That this defense can eat up quarterbacks like that, and that's why you saw games where guys like Hyde and Poyer were getting those interceptions because they could disguise their coverages so well from pre to post snap, but also just within the same coverage family, within the same middle of the field open look, those too high looks, they can disguise so many different things based on what the corners and slot corners are doing pre to post snap.
That's an excellent point. Just even off like the fundamental basis of having split safety looks, like, okay, is it cover 2 man? Is it cover 2 zone? Is it Tampa, 2 cover 2? Is it quarters? Is it cover 6? Like all these things you have to diagnose. And then again, because of something that we talk about all the time in the film room, because of certain alignments, like here, you've got that, 3-by-1 look. So Trey on that receiver at the bottom of the screen is functioning, in that quarters look, but almost more in a man coverage type of look.
It's more of a meg look, right?
Exactly.
It's more of a meg look because he doesn't have to, this is quarters coverage. He doesn't have to worry about that deep quarter. He's got only one receiver over there. So he can play it that way. But so I'm saying, like, if Heineke looks out to him, he's probably like, oh, that's man coverage. This is probably 2 man. Well, then why the heck is, these other corners and safeties, you're not covering down? Like, it's confusing. And then again, you said that the pressure from Hughes, there's a lot to process from pre to post snap. And then, once post snap, again, that's when these safeties and this scheme and the coverages that they can run, really force a quarterback to like strain and go through all of their progressions and really exhaust them mentally, not just physically.
Yes. And, and just in case anyone doesn't know, MEG stands for man everywhere he goes. So basically means you're in man coverage with that receiver anywhere and everywhere he goes. What's also a cool point, if we want to, push it forward a little bit to 2022, this type of look with an athlete and a press man ability built into Kyer Elam, you can run more of these mega looks in these, 3x1 sets and not have to have Tre'Davious White be that meg corner. Now you can play more games and have more confidence potentially in Kyer Elam because you've got a guy who's got a little more size and athleticism, can play that press ability. He can give you that look and not have to feel like you have to shade over the top with one of those split safeties. You can continue to play more games. And then if you're able to play more games at the corner level, when you already got two of the best safeties in the league at disguising coverages and playing games pre and post snap, goodness gracious.
Yeah, Michael, he's right here too. He says Poyer and Hyde give Brady trouble. Inexperienced QBs have a little chance. He's right. I mean, that's one of Poyer's career type plays. Like he was a cover 3 buzz defender, came down and picked off Brady. That's one of his highlights.
The one in New England.
Yeah, that's one of his highlights. One of his favorite plays of his career thus far. So yeah, he does. He gives good quarterbacks. They give the good quarterbacks troubles too, not just those young inexperienced guys, but I mean, they really make things difficult on those young guys, as you saw on a lot of these clips. But they really just elevate the defense. They make everyone accountable on their on the defensive side of the ball. Again, they're leaders on the field, and they lead not just with their their communication and vocally, but you saw they lead with their production. They lead by example. There's so much we could talk about with these guys. Again, we could do several episodes on the nuance and what they bring to the Bills defense.
So much nuance. That's the perfect way to put it, the nuance piece. And, you hit some other aspects that are kind of those off the field pieces or those culture pieces. And I feel like it's become almost like corny a little bit to talk about it at times now, but that Bills culture is a very real thing. And it stems from Sean McDermott, it stems from the top down, but Hyde and Poyer are so important to the culture, and signify and kind of are a microcosm of what this Bills team has been, guys who have been overlooked, who are the right fit as a person and as a player, who have elevated their game and risen in the ranks, and their floor has been raised and their ceiling has been raised. And they do so much on the field, like we broke it down in this episode, but they do so much off of it as well. They are the tone setters on the field, off the field, from a culture standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, from a communication standpoint, on the field and off the field. They're, again, it's why we mentioned in the beginning, whether you want to call them the heartbeat or the engine or whatever of this defense, they are so tremendously important because of what they do, on and off the field. And again, when you've got guys who are that important from a culture standpoint, a leadership standpoint, and then on the field can make life difficult for guys like Tom Brady, who have seen anything and everything when it comes to the NFL, you've got some good ones.
Yeah, and they're the poster boys for the growth mindset, right? That's why they were handpicked for this organization, for this scheme, for this staff. They are literally the poster boys for a growth mindset. Like they're the perfect complement to the coaching staff on the field.
Cerebral, versatile, anything and everything that you need them to do, they can do. They execute at a high level. They do what is asked of them. They do their job and then some. Just, yeah, exactly like you said, the poster boys, the ideal players that you want to bring in on the ground level when you're trying to turn around a franchise. And then also those guys that you still want there when you're taking things to the next level to compete for a championship. And like this comment says, only 37 days until the first preseason game. I'm very excited, Eric. I know you're excited as well. And this was a fun episode to kind of get everybody, geared up a little bit towards, as we move towards, this is the last episode in June. Next week will be July, which means as of right now, we're under 30 days away from the start of Bill's training camp. So
I
know it's going to be big.
I can't wait. I'm glad you brought camp up because, guys, if you're in the Western New York area for the first week or so of camp, we're all going to be there. Like everyone's going to be there. We got an Airbnb for the first night or so. We're going to have a nice cookout there. We're going to be at camp that Sunday. A bunch of us on Monday. I'll be there Wednesday as well. So we're going to have pretty much all hands on deck for camp. So if you're in the area, you have some free time to get out to camp at Fisher, make sure to get out there. But more importantly, hit us up. Let us know that you're going to be there. And more importantly, when you're there and you see us, give us a shout out. Come sit with us in the stands. Watch with us. We'll add that context that we always do when we're watching the games and practices. So if you're out that way, please make sure to let us know that you're there and come hang out with us.
Yeah, we're going to be squatted up. It'll be easy to spot us. We're
Yeah.
pumped for that. And yeah, bring your helmet, your shoulder pads. We're going to be playing full 11 on 11, just going at it nonstop in between, probably get on the field at some point and do some tackling drills,
Why
whatever
not?
is needed. Why not? Very exciting time around the corner. And again, a very exciting episode to kind of push things forward. And again, we didn't really talk about it too much. New time slot, 9 p.m.
Yes.
9
Prime
p.m.
time,
for the
baby.
film room. Ooh,
Let's do it.
a little more primetime action, a little more, maybe the wife and kids are asleep and you're done with dinner. And of course, there's nothing on TV. So you put on the Cover One film room. This will be the time going forward, starting tonight, obviously, and then going forward throughout, until the wheels fall off, whenever that may be. So this will be the new time for the Cover One film room at 9 p.m. And for those of you who joined us tonight live in this new 9 p.m. time slot, we thank you.
Oh, that's a good one. I like
dude,
that.
Dude, I just saw
that.
it.
I like it.
That's
Appreciate
awesome. I kind of don't even want to say anything else like the closing spiel. I just want to end it on that. That's awesome. That's tremendously.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Dude, seriously. Yeah. That's tremendously humbling. Thank you so much for that comment, man. That's awesome. Man, I talk a lot. I'm taken aback by that. I'm a little lost for words. That's pretty sweet. Thank you for that comment. And thank you to, I had to regain my train of thought here. Thank you to everyone who joined us live tonight for this first 9 p.m. Tuesday episode of the Cover One Film Room. Thank you so much for all your questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, your engagement with each other, with us. We love that here at Cover One. It's one of the main reasons we like to go live and do these live shows is the engagement with you guys, which is also why we want you guys to hit us up if you're coming to Fisher for training camp, because we want to continue that engagement piece. You guys allow us to do what we do. So thank you so much for joining us live. If you did not watch this episode live or listen to this episode live, that's cool. Thank you so much for your post-live view, listen, download, whatever have you. We greatly appreciate it. And while you're here, please drop a like on this video. Please subscribe to the Cover One Film Room, to the Disguise Coverage YouTube channel, both of those. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, subscribe there as well. Please leave a rate or a rating or review. Help us out as much as you can. We appreciate any and every ounce of support that you guys can give us. We're tremendously grateful and appreciative of anything and everything you guys do. And thank you so much. And Eric, I know you got something before we wrap up here.
Yeah, before we wrap up, guys, we appreciate all the engagement in the chat room. But if you, are watching this later, you maybe joined us a little late, please leave us a comment on YouTube. But more importantly, we want to know what type of content you want this offseason, training camp, and going into the season. Specifically, stuff that, we talk about. We use a lot of different terms, Meg, Buzz, Defender, Sky. We use all these different types of terms and definitions and lingo, football lingo. Some of you may not get all of that. Well, if you don't, if you didn't understand something we talked about, maybe you're watching ESPN and some, analyst use some kind of term or definition you didn't know about, leave us a comment with what you want us to cover. If some type of term or anything like that, leave it in there, because we're going to start getting some stuff together where we're going to create some type of reference or glossary for you guys to use, and we're going to have film to back it up. So if there are any types of definitions, any type of language, football language or concepts, topics, anything you want us to cover, leave us a comment. Send it to us in DMs if you have to. Get it to us, and we're going to start putting together a nice little reference sheet for all of you that want to learn more about football, because that's why we do this. We want to teach, what we know about football and pass on the little knowledge that we do have. And so we're going to start working on that going forward. So if there's anything, make sure to leave a comment. Get it to us in DMs. However you can, just get it to us, and we're going to start putting that stuff together.
Yeah, get at us on Twitter. I'm at pro_ANT, pro__ant. You can get at Eric on Twitter at Eric J Turner, or you can always DM the official Cover One handle on Twitter, which is at cover and the number one. No spaces, no dashes, no underscores, nothing. Again, we're putting a lot of priority on the X's and O's and the educational piece, the kind of the foundations of what, you, Eric, as the godfather of this brand, built and founded everything on. And, kind of in the spirit of this show, moving to that primetime spot, we want to get that glossary going and really build that education piece and that foundation piece for everyone so that we can increase your knowledge as a fan as much as humanly possible to help you enjoy the game better, understand the game better, and appreciate it to the level that, we do, or anyone above us does, with the, like you said, the little amount of knowledge that we do have, and try and pay it forward and connect everybody even further. And, some more comments have come through, for the appreciation for us and Cover One. And we thank you guys so much again for the kind words and for the engagement and anything and everything you do for this episode of the Cover One Film Room. I am Anthony Prohaska. That is Mr. Eric Turner. Again, no Kendall, because he's a traitor and a backstabber. We will see you next week for another episode of the Cover One Film Room. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. And we'll see you next week.